What are the martial classes like in PF2E? What are they all about? And can you martial your way into enjoying them? Because they're martial classes and it's martial. This is the Dominomicon, authored and hosted by me, Dominic. The Dominomicon is dedicated to all nerdy things, with my current obsession being the TTRPG Pathfinder 2nd edition. This video chapter is for people that want a quick rundown of what each martial class in PF2E is all about. So if you're looking for a particular type of martial, you'll know what to pick by the end of this video. And I'll be doing a similar video on caster classes after this one, as including casters here would have made this video a little bit too long, as there's just so many classes in PF2E. So how this is going to work. I'll be touching on each currently released martial class for those who are looking to pick one and want a quick understanding of what each of them are all about. It's not going to be an exhaustive list of what each class can do. So I'll be mentioning things like base HP, armor and weapon proficiency, primary attribute, and what each class's function generally is. Though please note this can massively change based on build. Also note that most classes can be built to do any role, especially when you consider dedications like the medic dedication, which basically allows any class to function as a healer. So I'll be describing what each class's most popular roles are, and I'll be skipping dedication considerations entirely. The roles I'll attribute each class to are Striker for damage, Tank for defensive options, Support for buffing and healing, and Control for debuffs and utility. I'll mention some subclasses, but I'll mostly be skipping over them as there's too many for a video like this, and explaining the base class should be enough to explain how it generally functions. This list includes all currently released remastered martials, and also includes the classes that aren't due for a remaster. It's all here. And this list is alphabetically ordered to aid with skimming through and finding a particular class, though I'll include timestamps in the description as always. And as ever, if you find this video helpful or entertaining, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Okay, that's enough of the preamble, let us begin. The Alchemist. Oh boy, the biggest problem about going alphabetically is that I have to start with, arguably, the most complex class in the game, and one that is only technically a martial in the same way that a tomato is a fruit. It's factually correct, but kinda doesn't seem that way, does it? Alchemist is an 8 HP class with proficiency up to medium armor and training in simple weapons and alchemical bombs. Intelligence is their primary attribute. So, how do alchemists work? Well, they are mostly how they sound. They do stuff with potions, or concoctions, as they're not necessarily always potions. They can use these concoctions as bombs, brewed elixirs, mutagens that they can drink or give to allies for bonuses, and are able to make poisons out of them also, all to do weird stuff on the battlefield. So bombs are bombs, but you throw them around and they do a bit of single target and splash damage, and they also tend to have debuffs and sometimes persistent damage effects. Elixirs can be used to restore HP and treat conditions, and can even be thrown at your own allies to heal them. Mutagens can be used to temporarily boost a stat or two, each with a specific drawback, but this allows you to be a varied martial character that can adapt your physical capabilities to each fight. And poisons can be applied to your weapons and tend to be really good at single target damage and pretty severe persistent damage, and the debuffs are nice too. Non-alchemists would normally have to spend time crafting these types of concoctions, but alchemists simply get a set amount effectively created out of thin air for them at the start of every day. And you even get replenishing versions of these concoctions between fights, called versatile vials. Alchemists also get the formulas for these concoctions for free as they level, and you get a couple more that are specific to your chosen subclass. As for the subclasses themselves, called research fields, there's one for each of the concoctions I mentioned earlier. There's Bomber, Chirurgeon, Mutagenist, and Toxicologist. Each subclass also comes with benefits if you use that particular type of concoction, such as Bombers getting to ignore splash damage on allies, Chirurgeons getting to make healing bombs from level 1, Mutagenists getting temporary HP when they drink a mutagen, and Toxicologists can apply poisons to the weapons for 1 action as opposed to 2. Regardless of subclass, you can still pick and use all other types of concoctions as you level, which is where the huge complexity for the class comes from, as you're actually able to instantly make these potions in the middle of a fight. So if that enemy is actually immune to that alchemist fire, then no problem, because now we're using acid flasks all of a sudden. The alchemist role is usually quite varied, and they really are jacks of all trades, master of none, though the field can generally make them very good at a particular role as they level up, like Chirurgeons getting to heal for unbelievable amounts at level 13. So if you're looking for a complex jack of all trades class who can do a little bit of everything from debuffing and buffing to healing and dealing damage, and even enhancing your own stats to fight side by side with your allies, the Alchemist is for you. Next up, the Barbarian. The Barbarian is a 12 HP class with proficiency up to medium armor, and they're trained in martial weapons. Strength is their primary attribute. This class is exactly what you'd expect. They get angry and smash things, usually with two-handers, though subclasses can change this. Barbarians get the Rage action, which you can actually do just as an encounter starts, and it gives them temporary HP and bonus damage to melee attacks. This temporary HP combined with your 12 base health makes you somewhat tanky. It also makes you unable to use actions that require concentration, so barbarians who want to use those sorts of actions might struggle a bit, though there's a feat you can take to help alleviate that issue. The subclasses for Barbarian, called Instincts, alter both the damage type and the damage amount you deal, and come with a little benefit and a minor amount of resistance to a specific damage type as you level. A couple of examples are the Animal Instinct, which gives you an animal-like ferocity and different sorts of attacks depending on the animal, and the Dragon Instinct, which has you pick a dragon type and you get their element added to your rage damage and eventually a breath attack. The Barbarian's role is usually a melee striker, though they can tank a little and get a few melee control abilities. So if you're looking for a melee class that is relatively beefy, can take a few hits and hits back for crazy damage, all while being a raging monster of furious anger, the Barbarian is for you. The next martial is the Champion. The Champion is a 10 HP class with proficiency in all armor types, and they're trained in martial weapons. Their primary attribute is strength or dexterity. Typically called the Paladin in many other games, the Champion is all about their god, and are one of the best tanks in PF2E. They generally walk around in lumbering armor, hitting things that they disagree with and doing tiny bits of magic now and then. You get a choice of a few focus spells when you create your champion, though this can be restricted by subclass. Some examples are Lay on Hands, which is a quick heal for a set amount for you or an ally, and an opposite day Lay on Hands that harms rather than heals. These healy, damagey spells can also be used on certain enemy types to hurt them. Champions also get their own unique reaction based on their subclass, called causes here. The more classically generic champion subclasses tend to have this reaction kick in when one of their allies gets attacked when close by the champion, and the reaction reduces damage dealt and allows an extra thing, like a free attack from the champion. The more mean, naughty anti-paladin types get a more selfish reaction for when they get hurt, such as commanding the attacking enemy to kneel before them, which we can all agree is pretty badass. The champion's role is usually a melee tank with a little bit of support on the side. So if you're looking for a mostly melee class with a teeny bit of magic that protects allies, usually with shields, and can heal allies also, or instead protects themselves and smashes the heathens, all while being super tanky and probably a little bit preachy, then the champion is for you. Next class, the Fighter. The Fighter is another 10 HP class with proficiency in all armor, though it doesn't quite scale as well as the champions, and they're expert in all weapons plus trained in advanced. Their primary attribute is either strength or dexterity. The Fighter is all about raw combat skill and adaptability, usually focusing on melee combat, though they make great ranged attackers too. They get a lot of choices when it comes to combat-oriented feats, with some that you can swap over daily once you level up a bit. They really are combat masters, dedicated to kicking ass on the battlefield in more than a few ways. Because of their +2 to hit with most weapon types, they really are a force to be dealt with, and I don't actually think I can understate how massive that bonus to hit and crit actually is. Fighters don't actually get subclasses, and instead get feats that kind of promote a particular fighting style, like Double Slice, which is good for 2 one-handed weapons or a weapon and a shield, or Vicious Swing, which is good for two-handers. And fighters are the only class to get Reactive Strike from level 1, though some martials can pick it up later on as a feat. The fighter's role can be quite varied. They can be good at melee or ranged striking, as well as tanking and controlling, all depending on feats and playstyle. But with the fighters getting proficiency in all weapons and also their ability to alter some feats daily, their role can change day by day, or even in the middle of a battle. So if you're looking for an adaptable martial master of weapons and combat feats with the option to tank or use and abuse a crazy variety of weapons, the Fighter is for you. Next class is the Gunslinger. The Gunslinger is an 8 HP class with up to medium armor proficiency and is trained in martial weapons but expert in firearms and crossbows. Dexterity is their primary attribute. Gunslingers are very much how they sound. They shoot people with guns, or crossbows if you want. Usually these weapon types do flat damage with no modifiers and take a whole action each turn to reload, but Gunslinger not only gets that +2 to hit with guns and crossbows, similar to fighters, but they also get a flat +1 on their damage damage rolls with these weapons, and their subclass options allow them to reload and usually do another action for free. Two examples of subclasses called Ways are the Sniper subclass that gets to hide and reload for one action, hopefully making all of their enemies off guard to their next attack, and the Drifter that gets to do a melee attack at the same time as reloading. And most guns in PF2E get the Fatal trait, which increases your weapon dice to the number stated and adds another dice of that same number on a crit, meaning gunslingers do some of the most damage in the game on a crit. The gunslinger's role is almost always a ranged striker, and a crit fisher more specifically, but they do get a few control abilities if chosen. So if you're looking for a mostly ranged class that crits like a beast and shoots everyone's head off, and gets some interesting action economy saving reload actions, the gunslinger is for you. Next on the list, the Inventor. The Inventor is an 8 HP class with up to medium armor proficiency and is trained in martial weapons. Their primary attribute is intelligence. An Inventor, believe it or not, invents things. Sometimes referred to as a Barbarian that uses crafting checks and intelligence to rage, they can actually dish out a lot of damage and can take some weird utility abilities too that are potentially repeatable, as you make a DC 15 flat check after using one, and if you succeed, you can do it again. But if you fail, you'll have to wait until the next encounter, sadly. Two examples of these utility abilities are Searing Restoration that caplodes and heals, and Explosive Leap, which lets you leap 30 feet in any direction, even straight up. Not sure why you'd want to go straight up, but could be fun. Both of these abilities work from your innovation, and innovations are Inventor's main shtick and also their subclass. You get to pick between a weapon, which helps with damage, armor that can do lots of cool stuff like tanking or going invisible, or a construct companion that can take a bit of damage and deal out a little bit too. And as you level, you'll get to add more things to your innovation to power it up further. Inventors also get the Overdrive action that, as previously mentioned, allows you to increase your damage depending on a crafting check. The damage can be pretty good too, especially if you get a critical success. And the Explode action they get at level 1 showcases that despite being a martial class, Inventors can actually do some decent area of effect damage. And the Inventor's role can be any of the 4 I mentioned, though they tend to be played as a ranged or melee striker. So if you're looking for a mostly damaging martial with limited utility that loves inventions, science, and tinkering and can dish out some area of effect damage every now and then the Inventor is for you. Next, the Investigator. The Investigator is an 8 HP class with proficiency in light armor and are trained in all martial weapons. Intelligence is their primary attribute. Ever wanted to play as a sort of clever detective in a TTRPG? Well, that's exactly what the Investigator is. Investigators are great at noticing strange things, figuring out puzzles and the like, and with their Devise a Stratagem ability, they can use intelligence on their attack roll and even get to decide whether they still want to attack after seeing the result, which is weird and awesome. They also get an ability called Pursue a Lead, which can potentially give you bonuses towards your checks so long as they're relevant to your lead. Their subclasses are called methodologies, and there's 4 of them: alchemical sciences, forensic medicine, empiricism, and interrogation, and they all work pretty differently. For example, the forensic medicine methodology allows them to use battle medicine to greater effect, and the interrogation methodology allows them to interrogate people, and if they lie, it's easier for the investigator to detect. The investigator's role is usually a ranged or melee striker, though they do get support, control, and utility abilities also. So if you're looking for a detective-style Sherlock Holmes character that can figure out how and what's going down rather quickly, all while attacking using their smarts, then the Investigator is for you. Coming up next, the Magus. Paizo apparently pronounces it Magus, but the internet says it's pronounced Magus, which I think sounds better, so I'll be sticking with that. The Magus is an 8 HP class with proficiency up to medium armor and is trained in martial weapons. Their primary attribute is strength or dexterity. This class is effectively your classic spell sword, as they're martials that can cast arcane spells, and these spells are prepared, similar to a wizard. While they get less slots than a traditional caster and actually lose access to the lower ranked slots once they outlevel them, they still get access to these spell ranks as quickly as a normal caster does, which is pretty nifty. The main thing is Spell Strike, a 2-action strike which also casts an attack roll only spell on an enemy, and if it hits, there's no saving throw, and they deal damage from the strike plus the spell. And you can even use cantrips on your Spell Strikes. Suffice to say, crits with a high-ranked spell on a Spell Strike are absolutely insane. Spell Strike does need to be recharged for 1 action after being used, however. Their subclasses all give them a different focus spell that can recharge their Spell Strike. These subclasses, called Hybrid Studies, are Inerexible Irreversible Iron, Laughing Shadow, Sparkling Targe, Starlit Span, and Twisting Tree, and they each tend to alter the combat style of the Magus, like Irreversible Iron focusing on two-handed attacks, and Starlit Span that allows ranged attacks to work with Spell Strike. The Magus's role is usually as a melee or ranged striker, though they can probably off-tank depending on build, and with arcane spells they can be decent utility class also. So if you're looking for a hybrid caster martial sort of gish that can deal crazy damage and is a bit of a glass cannon, Magus is for you. Next up, the Monk. The Monk is a 10 HP class with experts in unarmored defense and is trained in simple and unarmed attacks. Their primary attribute is strength or dexterity. Monks are kind of what you'd expect, martial art masters with cool magical abilities using ki. They speed around the battlefield and use flurry of blows to do 2 attacks with 1 action. Monks don't have any subclasses in PF2E, and like the fighter, they customize how they play via their feats. They can pick from a few different stance abilities for the feat selection at level 1, and while not mandatory, these stances dictate what attacks you can do, plus some other cool things. Crane Stance, for example, raises your AC by 1 and boosts your jumping, but limits you to agile D6 crane wing attacks. Mountain Stance drops your dex cap for AC to 0, but gives a +4 item bonus to AC, makes you harder to push, and lets you use D8 falling stone attacks, but these aren't agile. Both of these are tanky options, and if you wanted a stance for more damage, you could take the Monastic Archer stance that lets you use certain ranged weapons with flurry of blows. These stances tend to lead to more powerful versions of themselves as you level up. Monks also get ki spells, which can do things like increase damage, increase speed, and even heal yourself. The Monk's role is usually as a melee or ranged striker, or a tank with some decent battlefield control abilities too. So if you're looking for a mystical martial arts master that zips around the battlefield and beats the crap out of enemies and has a tiny bit of ki magic, then the Monk is for you. The next martial is the Ranger. The Ranger is a 10 HP class with proficiency up to medium armor and is trained in martial weapons. Strength or dexterity is their primary attribute. The Ranger is a hunting expert with abilities to help them track and take down prey. They can be built to be good at both ranged and melee attacks, and even get some optional magic abilities too. They can also take an animal companion as an optional feat. Rangers get the Hunt Prey action, which targets a single enemy and gives the Ranger bonuses to that particular marked enemy. These bonuses come from your subclasses called your Hunter's Edge, and there's currently 3. Flurry, which lowers your multiple attack penalty, Outwit, which gives you an AC bonus plus some other skill benefits towards your prey, and Precision, which lets you add a D8 to your first strike each round, and this increases as you level. And you can give these bonuses to your allies too with an optional feat later on. Their magical abilities, called Warden spells, can be quite varied. For example, you can get Soothing Mist to heal and end persistent damage effects, Gravity Weapon to increase your damage further, or Slime Spit to spit slime for if you want to be a ranger that spits on people, which is a weird class fantasy, but who might judge? The ranger's role generally tends to be ranged or melee striker, though they do get some support and control abilities also. So if you're looking for a strong or dexterous melee or ranged martial who is a master of the wilds and might have an animal companion or even a bit of primal magic, the ranger is for you. Next class, the Rogue. The Rogue is an 8 HP class that's proficient in light armor and trained in martial weapons. Dexterity is their primary attribute, though they get to pick another one if they want. The Skill Monkey, the Backstabber, the one that steals everything and makes everyone angry. Everyone loves to hate the Rogue. Again, the Rogue is kind of what you'd expect. They're trained in lots of different skills and get skill feats and proficiency every level as opposed to every even and odd level respectively. They get Sneak Attack, which allows them to add 1d6 worth of damage that increases as you level to enemies that are off guard with every attack. So flanking is mandatory with Rogue unless you play ranged and hide a lot. Rogue subclasses are called Rackets, and they alter the Rogue's primary attribute as well as giving you some other benefits. For example, if you chose the Thief Racket, you get to use Dexterity on your damage rolls, something extremely rare in PF2E. And if you chose the Ruffian, you can pick Strength and you're allowed to use Sneak Attack on more weapon types. There's also the Mastermind that gets to pick Intelligence as their primary attribute and makes enemies off guard on a successful recall knowledge check, and the Scoundrel gets Charisma as their primary attribute and they get a better version of Feint. The Rogue's role is generally a melee striker, though ranged is perfectly viable, and with the amount of skills they get, you could probably class them as a utility class as well. Plus, they get a few control abilities they can inflict. So, if you're looking for a squishy, light-armored skill monkey with great damage that functions better when flanking or hiding, the Rogue is for you. Next up is the penultimate class, which is the Swashbuckler. The Swashbuckler is a 10 HP class with proficiency in light armor and is trained in martial weapons. Dexterity is their primary attribute. This class is all about style and flair, so the opposite of me. Swashbucklers dart around the battlefield with panache, a unique resource they gain from performing stylish maneuvers, and they can use this panache to perform finishers, which are powerful attacks that add damage and effects. Swashbucklers' subclasses are called styles, and these dictate how they regain panache. The Battle Dancer, for example, regains panache when you successfully mesmerize a foe with the performance skill. The Fencer style regains panache by creating a distraction or feinting. The Gymnast style, on the other hand, regains panache by performing athletic maneuvers such as grapple, reposition, shove, and trip. There's also the Braggart style, which regains panache through demoralizing foes, the Rascal that gets to use Dirty Trick to get panache, which has you do things like loosen an enemy's belt or something else just as silly, and Wit lets them bon mot an enemy for panache. Swashbucklers can also gain panache by using an action with the Bravado trait. The Swashbuckler's role is usually a melee striker and a bit of a controller. So if you're looking for a dexterous, damaging, flashy melee class that emphasizes mobility and style, then the Swashbuckler is for you. And the final martial class is the Thaumaturge. The Thaumaturge is an 8 HP class with proficiency in medium armor, and they're trained in martial weapons. Their primary attribute is charisma. This class is certainly one of the strangest in PF2E. They're supernatural investigators drawing on esoteric knowledge to exploit the weaknesses of their foes. They get a special ability called Exploit Vulnerability, which lets them identify a creature's weaknesses and tailor their attacks to exploit them, even if they don't have one. That's right, the Thaumaturge can actually create weaknesses on an enemy, massively boosting their potential damage output. Thaumaturges use implements, which are their subclasses. These implements are special items that enhance their abilities and give them unique powers that are kind of similar to pre-existing classes. Some examples include the Amulet, which gives you or an ally damage resistance when attacked as a reaction, similar to the Champion, and the Weapon implement that allows you to attack an enemy as a reaction almost identically to a reactive strike. These abilities tend to only work on enemies that you have exploited vulnerability on, and they also get to pick more implements as they level. The Thaumaturge's role is usually melee or ranged striker, but they can get a tiny bit of all the other roles too if built that way. So if you're looking for a charismatic, investigative class that uses knowledge and mystical implements to uncover and exploit the weaknesses of their enemies, the Thaumaturge is for you. And that is a sum up of all the currently released martial classes in PF2E. While it was only a relatively quick summary, hopefully it'll give new players and GMs a basic idea of what each class is all about, and should help you, especially as a player, if you're trying to fill a particular role in your party that hasn't been filled yet. If you did find this video helpful or enjoyable, please give it a like and consider subscribing. And for my loyal, beautiful viewers, I have a question. What's your favourite martial in PF2E and why? And why do you think martials are so much fun in PF2E? I've seriously never had as much fun playing a martial in any TTRPG than I have in Pathfinder 2nd edition. They're so good. But that's the end of this video chapter, and for now, this is Dominic of the Dominomicon wishing you a fond farewell, and until next time, goodbye.